Welcome to the August meeting, August 2, 2020 meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Commission. Would like to start with approval of the July minutes. Do I have a motion? Eldon, motion, all approved?
I'll second it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so first item, we have been working for quite a while on wastewater management issues along with the Clean Water Committee. At the last meeting, Nicholas Bono from H2M presented his preliminary thoughts about potential sewer district that would be phased. Both to reflect a first phase, which would serve the core of the village business district, and then a second and third phase, second phase serving the remainder of the business district, and third phase including some of the some additional areas, including potentially parts of South Main and First Neck Road. So he has been continuing to work on that, and after talking to the mayor and trustees, we thought it would be a good idea for him to present his findings at the end of this month, and begin to talk out what the potential next steps are. That would be followed with a meeting, a presentation at a trustees meeting. So the purpose of the 27th would be to get public comment. I'd like to set up for him to brief members of the planning commission on an individual basis. So we will get emails out to everyone. And then we've also been asked to make sure that each of the trustees gets briefed before the 27th so they begin to get a sense of what's going on with that. Mark, I think, if you could coordinate with the Clean Water Committee.
Okay, fine, I'll do that.
Because I'd like to make sure they have a presentation before the 27th so they at that meeting can attend and talk about what their comments are. And then also, if you could talk a little bit about, at the meeting, about sort of what else is happening on the clean water front, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
I just
on the 27th, it's going to be a Zoom meeting.
It will certainly not be a in-person meeting, I don't think. So it will either be Zoom or CCTV or something like that. And I think we're setting it for 4 o'clock to allow more people to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Jolie, do you think we can do something similar to what the ARB is doing, where we're actually in a room and we could have a few people in the audience?
I think that probably wouldn't be a problem, but it would just have to be worked out with, I think, Russell.
Okay.
But they are doing that, and they have some audience, but very light. What they've been doing is, having people come in to give a presentation and then leave to keep audience light.
I'm thinking if we had Nick and maybe 1 or 2 members of the Clean Water Committee.
Yeah. I don't think that would probably be a problem. I don't think that would be an issue.
Is that okay for everyone on this phone call?
Yeah, you can almost do it the same way the doctor's offices do. You have to wait out in the car and then they call you.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing. Yeah.
I think the only issue for me is that I'm covering the 6 o'clock ZBA meeting. And so that will be by Zoom. So I just need, what time do you think the meeting will be ending is what I need to know.
Say we'll end it at 5:30 then?
5:30 be perfect. I'll be able to get back to do the Zoom. That's fine. All right.
Just a comment, as I think people know from the last meeting, one of the things that Nick has been doing is coordinating with information a separate group, a private group has been doing about potential options with Southampton Hospital. So he'll be reporting that as one of the options in the report. So at least for the first phase. So any questions about that?
We should also review whether it's really worth it or what is the additional cost to have it phased. instead
Right.
of doing it
Yeah, he's going to talk about that.
because maybe it's cost advantageous to do a bigger part, so
Right.
all the mains are installed immediately.
Right. Right.
I have a question, Paul, regarding the age of the sewer treatment plant. And has the health department come on board and said, yes, we can look at possibly tying into the hospital plant?
That's one of the things he's going to
Review it.
He's
Yeah,
he's been
review.
talking to the county health department, so he'll talk about what they're saying.
There are a lot of complexities to tie
Right,
into the hospital because it's tied to their number of beds and it's
Right.
tied to their actual permits.
Right.
So, their permit is tied to the fact that they have a sewage treatment plant.
Right. I think
What
one thing, Bob, I would say is that one thing that became clear as they were doing their work is that you can't, the use of the existing plant is limited because of the issues that Mark just talked about. So while it may be useful as for a first phase, you could not do you could not use it for the entire business district. It's too constrained.
Mhm.
Could you grow it in that location? I guess we'll find out from him.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the question, I guess, is if you grow it, is that the right place you would want to grow an existing
Exactly.
plant?
Right.
Yes, so that's what he's going to report on it.
Okay,
I'm going to try to, sorry,
So when do you think we're going to have the briefing? Before?
I'm going to try to set them up for either next week or hopefully next week. Worst case, the week after.
Okay.
And then I think the trustees want to do it on an individual basis, so they have a sort of an overview before the 27th. So we'll take care of that. Okay, so the other issue wanted to talk about tonight, I'm going to switch to the number 3, is the historic district and non-historic district demolition regulations. This is something that we've looked at for a while when we had the report done by Studio AB in the context of revision of the zoning regs. We looked at this issue. Eldon, do you want to talk about this and what we received, which hopefully everyone got a copy of, what we received from the ARB?
Yeah, I'm going to grab the paper. Hold on.
Okay.
So we received some papers from the ARB, and they've already drafted a very succinct proposed amendment for the zoning code that would require buildings to go that were more than 50 years old, I believe. I'm looking for the actual year in here.
Yep.
To go to the ARB to determine if they are should get a building demolition permit instead of something that would be issued directly from the building department. So it doesn't actually say that they're necessarily protected if they're not listed, if they're not in a historic district. It doesn't necessarily increase the protections. It just alerts the ARB as to the application, and they become the authority that actually approves the permit. That's my understanding of the change.
Right.
Go ahead.
I guess if it's in the historic district, if it's what they call a landmark, then they can decide not to allow it to be demolished.
They would, I'm not sure of the technicality at that point, but the point is that the feeling was that at least should be, the ARB should be notified and be the agency, if you will, that's approving demolition permits for structures more than 50 years. The regular protections don't change.
Right.
In the way this text is amended,
Right.
my understanding. So it's something we've been discussing for a long time. And when we had invited the SHPO training person here, last fall, she spoke about this. It's something that is certainly done in other municipalities and villages. And given the amount of demolition permits and pressure on the building department, it seems like a reasonable proposal. But wanted to discuss it here and see what the other members thought.
One thought that I'd like to bring forth was that, you know, when you apply for a demolition permit and sometimes they do a partial demolition, then they try to keep, you know, grandfathered conditions. And I don't think you should have your cake and eat it too. I mean, I think that if you demolish the structure, you should not be allowed to keep any grandfathered conditions in terms of setback, side yards, or whatever. And if the structure is of a certain age, so if they decide not to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about that in the past before as well. That's interesting. That's not necessarily contemplated in this text change that I have here. But I think that's another interesting point. This is very simple. I mean, you probably can't see it, but I know Paul circulated it
Right.
yesterday. It's simply just changing where that authority goes to issue to look at and issue the permit.
Right. So what happens now is if you go into the building department for a demolition permit. Right now, if it's before 1926, I think it is, yes. The building inspector decides whether or not to issue a demolition permit. If it's post 1926, it just gets issued. If it's pre 1926, it's up to him. What often happens is people go running to the ARB and complaining, but the ARB has no review. So it's this weird circumstance where people assume
they may not even be aware of it. Actually.
Right. They half the time they don't even know, or they know after the permit's already been issued or the building's coming down. So the idea was to switch that. So to get some public review before the building actually got demolished, even if ultimately the building gets demolished, at least the public's aware of it, people are aware of it. You know, maybe there's something that can be worked out.
Right. And I think it's important to emphasize in my note that I got from the ARB that this isn't changing ownership rights.
Right.
It's just changing the process to get to the demolition permit and making sure that there's a broader community notification or awareness of for older structures.
Right.
So,
Bob, any thoughts?
It's basically covering all the village right now. Because when I served on the ARB board, we had the village resurveyed and had presented before the village board to expand the historic district, and the village board did not do it.
Right.
One of the other problems that we ran into is with the ZBA telling owners on historic buildings they had to move them if they were going to do any minor construction and stuff like that. They're required to move them, and we run into problems with the ZBA. So that's something that should be also addressed.
Well, this is one baby step. It doesn't necessarily address a lot of these issues that both of you brought up, but it just merely changes the information in an approval process for the permit itself.
Right.
But it doesn't change the legal requirements or conditions for getting a permit.
Right.
The other question I have is, what about any historic landscaping that's on these properties? Has there been anything done about preserving some of this landscaping?
I don't believe there's any change in the process, but they would have to ask the ARB directly.
Yeah, there've been a number of presentations to the trustees about initiatives, and we had one over the winter from one group that had gone to the trustees to which would change the requirements on removal of landscaping. I'll check, Bob. I don't think anything has been approved yet, but that is definitely coming up. And there was a presentation to the trustees, I'm thinking in December, about that issue. They had brought to us a year ago, I'm thinking, Eldon, a very complicated concept of restricting landscaping, and then there was a removal of existing landscaping there was a more modest proposal made over the winter. I don't know what happened to that.
I think the initial one was just a lot of text and seemed
Right.
complicated to follow.
Right.
And I think the feeling was, could it be something that was easier for people to understand and
Right.
Yeah, I thought the first one they came out with was definitely, it was too complicated. They need to, trim it down and make it more simplified.
Right. The idea was to focus in more on a clear cutting type circumstance, as opposed to every time a homeowner wants to remove a tree having to go to the village, which in this village happens on an hourly basis, I think.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? So do we have an agreement? I think this is a very important, as Eldon said, first step to begin to clean this up and get some public awareness and ability to at least comment, which I know people have been very concerned in the past. So I'd like to be supportive. I mean, this is the ARB, I think, beginning to take steps to act in a broader sense that I think, Bob, you would particularly be very supportive of, just not being a reactive body, but doing more. So can we, is it okay if Eldon writes a letter saying that the Planning Commission is in support of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would second that.
Okay. All right. So Eldon, you'll write a letter to Jeff saying that he has the support of the commission on this
I
initiative.
assume we got everyone vote.
Great.
Okay. Yes, I'll draft something up for you.
Okay. So I wanted to reach back with some, I've had some inquiries about it. We had talked, I guess, a year in the fall. The Southampton, the owner of the Southampton Inn, had made a presentation about Viridian Way, and there was one point an initiative to demap Viridian Way. I don't think the commission was supportive of that, but I think we did agree at the time that the current nature of Viridian Way certainly could be modified and improved. Since then, the owner has been seeking and I think acquiring additional tenants for the buildings on the other side of Viridian Way, which are, it's getting increasing interest as office space in the this COVID and post-COVID world, where people are looking for temporary office space in Southampton. And so I wanted to get just everyone's sense of whether or not that's something they are willing to consider again. I've been talking to the mayor about potentially getting Mr. Lima started, and I was thinking maybe that's something he could look at as part of his study. So any comments about that? I'm not sure, Bob, whether you were at the meeting where they presented about.
I remember the meeting when they were going to change the Viridian Way. They wanted to change the parking area and do something else. It looked like it was better than what was there now. I would like to see if they're going to do changes. I'd like to see what they're proposing before I make a comment on it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly an area that needs to be reviewed. I think that what was proposed, I think, was an improvement, exactly just like as Bob said, from the way it is now. Viridian Way only serves the Southampton Inn. I think that if we can work out something with the Southampton Inn that benefits everybody, I think it's
right. I think we just want to make sure it benefits everybody.
Win-win situation.
Right. I mean, one thing that came up in the meeting, for example, was whether or not that should link in with the parking in back of the movie theater.
Yeah, I think it could make a lot of sense to link it. I don't know if that's what the the local property owner is thinking, but I do think it's a great idea to link it in with Lima's review, because it's an opportunity. We've got 2 or 3 major areas of opportunity around the village center, so it'd be sensible to promote those and to look at them kind of comprehensively.
Yeah,
Right.
we need to be linked, but we need to make sure that it doesn't become like a bypass
Correct.
for the intersection. So,
Yeah.
you don't want to suddenly all the cars to go through the two parking areas to bypass the intersection between
Yep.
Windmill and Hill
Sure.
Street.
Yep.
So,
Maybe that's
originally it was meant to connect with Cooper Farm Road. I think everyone agrees
Yes.
that doesn't make sense. That's not something the people on Cooper Farm Road wants. I don't think it's something we want. There's green space in
that's
between.
correct.
I think we'd all like to retain.
Yeah, I mean, the connection between the two could be even a pedestrian connection.
it's interesting
That
that
would be fine.
I think, cars, the use of cars is changing, obviously.
Yeah.
There's more use of Uber and ride shares. So, it could be an opportunity to reconnect the street system a little bit. But I think your point is well taken. I think you have to think about, you don't want to just create a bypass or a shortcut.
Right.
But you
Yes.
could also really even increase the opportunity for some of the land back there with, a better streetscape.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, that also brings to, I think that we should study it, what's going to happen with the movie theater.
Right.
What opportunity should we give for development for that site?
Right.
And because I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. It's a major.
Right. I mean, does seem, certainly the future, as we've seen in the last few months, movie theaters are under increasing pressure. And so that was a movie theater that's been under pressure for some time. So I agree with you, Mark. And I think providing better access to that site. I mean, one of the things that, when we had the parking study done years ago, they said, one of the most underutilized parking assets in the village was that parking lot, which is
Yes.
completely vacant all day. So,
Right.
You're over there, Mark, a lot. Do you ever see that full or half full? Or I guess lately the theater shut, there's probably less.
No, it's a lot less.
Yeah.
It's a lot less right now. It's basically vacant most of the day.
How full would it get, pre-COVID when you had a movie in the evening?
It was full.
It would fill.
yeah. Yeah.
With the movie, it would fill.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
movies, it would fill, and then in the summer, it would fill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The problem with that was that a lot of people were actually staying overnight. They
Right.
were using this as an overnight parking, but now signs have been put up, and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard that Amazon is buying movie theaters left and right. I don't know what
They're
going to
trying
do with. Sorry?
They're trying to. They bought a small operator, and there's talk that they're going to bid for one of the big operators.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So.
Vertically integrating the planet, right?
That's right. That's right.
Got to get him to buy a summer house in Southampton so he can fund Lake Agawam.
Well, what's the practicality of having that looked at in the larger?
Thank you for asking. So I think we're going to go back, and we're going back, and I'll give everyone a date when we have it. We're going to go back and present to the trustees and urge them to move forward on having James Lima begin the study of the hospital area and add on to his scope both the issues we had talked about in the business district and hopefully Viridian Way also. Just I think I think everyone's up to date, and certainly it's being widely reported, but the hospital's moving very strongly forward on the work that's going to be required to go into the ground in the Southampton College campus. So that move's definitely underway.
Where exactly on the campus is the building going?
Mark, you know better than I do, but I believe it's on the old highway side, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So where the light is that takes 20 minutes to change.
Yeah.
Right.
It's right there.
Hopefully they'll get it above the floodplain.
Right, exactly. Get above the floodplain, right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
Paul, have you heard anything about them changing the plans and enlarging the hospital that they're planning to build?
No.
I'd heard something from a doctor that they were talking about, due to the influx of people we've gotten here, about increasing the size of what they originally planned to build.
Huh, interesting. Interesting. I know they've been very aggressive about looking for additional housing for employees.
Can they use some of the college housing?
Yes. I think part of the reason that the college is so attracted to them is those dorms, which even if the college were operating at full capacity, which it's obviously not, are basically vacant. For example, the college dorms are vacant in the summer. The hospital has its highest staff needs in the summer. So I think part of the idea here is there was a lot of collateral benefits to putting the two uses together, like the dorms.
Right.
And those dorms, if anyone has been in them, could use some significant capital investment.
Yeah.
Anyone who's a fan of 60s really utilitarian architecture would like these dorms.
Right.
So, okay. So we'll move forward to that. Any other comments? So we are set for 4 o'clock on the 27th. We'll work with the village to allow us to do it in person this time. Also set up the Zoom. I would encourage everyone to come, and I will email around to get times that H2M can individually brief everybody on their findings. And Mark, if you could reach out to the Clean Water Committee.
Clean Water Committee, yeah.
I know the mayor would very much want them to be included in the briefings. The idea on the 27th is to try to get a number of people who have enough knowledge that we can have a really in-depth conversation as opposed to just purely a presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, fantastic.
Terrific. All right. Everyone stay healthy and safe.
You too. And
okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So we'll
we would do a motion to
adjourn.
Adjourn.
Adjourn. Okay. I'll
Second.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.